All right. I guess I'm live. It's crazy. Crazy. I've never like go live on YouTube, so this is very, very strange for me. Strange for me. Oh, wow. Okay, there we go. I get to see myself. I'm like playing around with this, so you guys better bear with me with this. Okay. I'm so tiny. I need to I like this is a misconception because I really thought I don't know. Okay, I'm like trying so hard to fix this thing. I feel so silly. I'm like, what do I do? Okay. Let's see. Cause I'm using this like server and it's like my first time ever using this and I'm trying to like oh, there we go. Whoopsie. Oh man, I don't know how to fix this layout. It's so bizarre. There we go. I think I'm getting it. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. Okay, yay, I figured it out. Now I'm gonna, like, fix the lighting. You guys are amazing for hanging out with me, like, this is just the beauty of, like, knowing that not many people are gonna be watching this. Be for us to see the technical difficulties. Okay, look at this. I this is the vibe, this is the vibe. Okay, yay. Hi, Chris. Okay, we got it, we got it. This is a better setup, is it not? It's a better because, like, you get to see what I'm reading. You get to see what I'm reading. Yes, and you know what I mean? Like, I think this is so much way better. I'm gonna plug in my TikTok real quick and just let people know if they wanna hang out on either or, and then we get to do what we get to do. Ghost story. There we go. Here we go. So now I'm live on YouTube and TikTok. Yes, Chris, I wanna start doing more lives on, I wanna start doing more lives on, YouTube. Because look at this is like a better setup. Yeah, Friday is a chill day. I think it's better, but okay. Let me open up do my spooky music because we know we love spooky music. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but okay, so I think we got it. We got it. I just feel weird hearing myself. That's Oh, thank you, JKS. There. Okay. We're good. We're good. We're good. Yay. Okay. So, just so for people on TikTok, I'm doing ghost stories, but if you want to see what I'm reading, it's all on my Reddit. Or sorry, Reddit, what the heck? It's all on my YouTube. So check out my YouTube if you want to see what I'm reading. So for those of you who are on my YouTube, you'll get to see the stories that I'm reading out loud. So yeah, this will be a very fun experience for all of us. It's like my bear with me. So if for whatever reason the audio sounds awful, let me know. Okay, guys. Okay, cool. I'm gonna just play some stuff on here and then we'll get going. Just bear with me, guys. I do not. When are you going to be to haunt? Okay, so I'm planning a haunted place. Hi, Bloodbath. Hopefully everything sounds good. Okay, so again, I'm just make the announcement. If you are not on my YouTube, that's okay, but I'm just gonna let you guys know that the stories that you can see are on my YouTube side. So I have the whole thing. I'm live on YouTube right now. You can see the stories. So I'm gonna read it now. So this is from the Ghost Reddit thread. It's called First Trip to Gettysburg. Still not sure what I experienced here. Several years ago, my family went on a long weekend trip to Gettysburg. We live about 2.5 hours away, and obviously, we had some spots we wanted to check out that people say are good for ghost activity. So, this late night at like 11 p.m., we decided to check out the covered bridge that everyone talks about on the advice of a family friend who had experience there. Turned out that half, turned out, oops, see if I can view more. Oh, there we go. Turned out half the other tourists also had the same idea, so we ended up leaving before we got out of the car because it was packed. On the way back, we drove on the roads that go across the battlefields to get back to the downtown area, and quite suddenly, the radio volume not only turned up on its own, my dad threw his hands in the air when that happened to show he wasn't doing it, but we heard nothing but static. The sound of a man screaming and arrhythmic pops that to me sounded like the recording of a canyon or gunfire or something similar. As we drove away, the volume went back down, and when my dad went to turn the dial back up, it was back to the regular local radio station we had. Keep in mind, it is pitch black out there at night. No streetlights, no other cars, too far from town for that light to do much. The next morning, we drove back over there, and in the daylight, we saw that there was an incident that happened that was a building that had a sign outside marked as a Civil War hospital location. I know my copious hours of watching the paranormal reality TV shows that most professionals in that space would categorize this as residual hauntings. I'm not sure my stance on the idea of ghosts and hauntings, but this is something I really can explain, and it's still with me. Okay, that is pretty spooky. um, yes, I do save these lives on here, Chris. Yes, I do. So, yes, thank you for that. Again, so for those of you that are on my TikTok, I do have a YouTube channel and I'm currently live on there. So if you want to see what I'm reading out loud, it's on Reddit. But if you guys want to see that, feel free to check out my YouTube. If not, no worries. Just want to, for better uh, streaming experience. Yeah. Okay. Also, I'm using like a better mic for YouTube. So I bought this mic and I love it. Okay. Um, you don't have to send me money. Oh, I appreciate it. You don't have to send me anything. Thank you though. Okay, I'm gonna upvote this one and go back. Okay, so ghosts. Let's see. Let's click into this one. It's just called Ghost, but it's by Salt Vegetable 918. So I don't know if this will be famous or if anyone will see it. This is the first time I'm sharing this with the world, let alone anybody other than my immediate family. I thought it'd be fun to hop on here and share a story for fun. This will always be an interesting topic. That was weird. The music just changed. Okay. When I was 10 or 12, give or take, I lived in a house near Illinois ish, not giving away the whereabouts. And this house was a normal and mid 90s household. This was built in the 90s. What happened to my family was around maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Anywho, this house was a normal household. Sorry, I don't want to admit too distracting. Um, this house was a normal household and we lived in it up until the point for a good 5 years. Nothing happened and we were fine. Everything was fine up until the point we put our house on the market. I was a little girl and was always upstairs doing my own thing. One night, about a couple days with our house being on the market, my mother went to take the dog out late at night, probably like midnight. And as soon as she entered the garage alone with the dog, a slow scratchy noise would start going up and down on a styrofoam box we had on the garage counter. My mom went to look on the other side of the box, expecting an animal to be causing the sound. To her surprise, nothing was there, and the box was left untouched, at least by anything living. The slow scratching eventually turned into a fast, inhuman scratch. Thinking nothing of it, she continued on with her night and went to bed. I wish I could say that this was the last thing that happened, but unfortunately it wasn't. A lot of this happened to my mom, as the next thing that happened was when she was relaxing, taking a bubble bath. I can't remember if this was during the day or night, but I'm going to say it was at night. Our bathroom had two doors to enter, one from the hallway and one from the master bedroom. My mom had these both open, or at least the hallway entrance closed. However, one door open was enough for her to see a shadow figure. She describes it as a figure running across the entrance, also to mention that nobody was home with her. Again, she doesn't believe it was anything. Maybe it was her imagination. Meanwhile, I was around 10 years old enough to be home alone, and when I was home alone, the house would be dead silent. It was just me and whatever else was there. I could hear footsteps as clear as day upstairs, walking. I don't know if it could have been the house setting in, but there was something there with me, walking right above me. Not only have I experienced this, but this also happened to be my mother as well. The night that changed our lives was the night that my sister found out. My sister did her own thing usually, so I don't think she really knew much of what was happening. So one night, my sister came up to my mom and had explained to her that at night she could see figures and would be able to speak to them. This shiz creeped me the fuck out because at the time we would share a room, and I guess I would have been sleeping. I'm still not sure if she's a medium or not, but I would assume that she is. I forgot what the spirits may have said to her or what she would have said to them, but I know that she had that ability. So, flashback to when I was 8 years old. Mind you, this was before anything had happened. I was going upstairs from the living room, and at around the third or second step, I was pulled down off the stairs by my shoulders. I don't know if it could have just been me falling backwards or off the stairs, but if I remember correctly, I remember there being this weird force. Like I could feel something grabbing me. Anyways, after everything that had happened, my mother was sleeping like every other night. However, this specific night, she was awoken up in the darkness by an unfamiliar voice saying, "Hey." She turned on the lampshade and nobody was there. And my dad had been a heavy sleeper, so it could have been him. When we were selling our house, we obviously had to leave so the people who were interested in buying could go and view the house. After reviewing, we went back, and as soon as we were going upstairs, my sister's school picture was on the floor, and only hers had been knocked off. We speculate that it could have been the people accidentally knocking it off, but the photo was secure, and the people who had viewed it didn't knock it off the wall. This is quoted from the realtor that had been there. Yes, I have a Hello Kitty jacket. Thank you. And just so you guys know, if you haven't checked out my YouTube, I'm reading ghost stories. I'm doing the live stream on there, and you can see what I'm reading. So if you guys like want to listen to me talk and also see what I'm reading, I think that would be a better viewing experience. If not, no problem. Just letting you guys know. Um, okay. So I hope this was entertaining, and I'm very blessed to be in a new house. Oh wait, I skipped a paragraph. After we had thankfully sold the house and moved out, my mother had mentioned to the realtor all of our paranormal activity that we had been experiencing. And to our shock, the realtor who had lived in the same house prior to us had mentioned similar experiences, as well as a haunted furniture that she had brought into the house years and years back that had generations of potential spirits attached to them. I hope this was entertaining. I'm very blessed to be in a new house, and I hope to never experience that again. Moral of the story, don't buy potentially haunted furniture. Also, I watch Sam and Colby all the time, so I mean, maybe they should do an investigation. That's so funny. That is so funny. Okay, reading the comments from YouTube. Oh, thank you, JK. Thank you. That's awesome. I've always wondered, are you also friends with Jesse V, Haley Reese, or Lois Lane, like you are with Brittany and Sarah? So I no, I'm not friends with them. I don't know them very well. I know of Lois Lane's work, and I think Jesse V. But you know who I met at VidCon? I met Amanda Ray. So she's the medium that works with Sam and Colby a lot. And she was such a sweetheart. Thank you for the likes. Oh, you guys are so nice. Thank you so much for the likes. Um, yeah. But no, I mean, thank you for those recommendations. Um, maybe they live in I don't know, but yeah, I saw Lola Lane. I saw her at the Instagram an Instagram after party, but I didn't get a chance to talk to her. I also know that she's friends with Kelsey Davies. Um I've done a collaboration with Kelsey Davies. We did like a pilot for Truly a long time ago. So yeah, good question though. This is fun though. And also like I feel like my mic is so much better on YouTube. My like scratchy voice. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna upvote this and then go to the another story. Okay, this is just like a funny title. If you're on YouTube, you can probably see that. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so this is from Zenzu Pin. And the title is I got my ass whooped by a ghost. Actually, I did just do a video of a spirit, and Chris, you might like this footage. I posted it on my Instagram and all my socials, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. But I did an investigation, or I got to go to the Tombstone Paranormal Convention. And hi, Huntover, thank you for joining. Yeah, you can see what yeah, so you can see how it's a little bit better over here on the YouTube side. Thank you for joining. So I got to do an investigation with like a guided investigation with Hero and Shacklin. And if you don't know who those are, they are two Navajo paranormal investigator brothers. And we went to Tombstone, Arizona, and in Boot Hill Cemetery is known to be haunted, by the way. There's pictures, there's like this famous photo of a ghost that was captured at Boot Hill Cemetery. And all in general, it's just a very interesting cemetery, seeing like the tombstones and everything. But yeah, so we went there together, and just so you guys know, like in Navajo culture, there is like obviously medicine people and people that do all kinds of spiritual work. And Hero and Shacklin, They're called Unearthing the Supernatural. And, they okay, so I have my Polter script right behind me here, and so if you don't know what that is, it's basically like, receiving text messages from, like, a spirit. So, like, it generates words from, like, the energy fields around you, and it said Hero's real, like well, his first name, and it said Fight. So it said David Fight, and I was, like, very taken back, like, "Okay, this could be, like, a joke or whatever." Well, no, it turns out that, like, Hero, his spiritual work is so up there with high regard, and he's known to some like, entities know him like, okay, he was telling me this whole thing, how, like, entities know him, and so they try to challenge him to, like, a fight, and so I have the footage on all my accounts, and yeah, like, he did a whole thing on it, he, like, questioned and challenged the spirit, because if a spirit challenges you, um you're supposed to ask it, like, questions on, like, how like, personal information and all this stuff to see, like, the legitimacy of that, because if it knows really personal information, that is dangerous territory. So that's something I did learn from them. But, yeah, apparently, like, they have this happen all the time where, like, spirits challenge them. Um Hi, Dreadful Studios. Um, so yeah. And for those of you who are on my TikTok, I do have a YouTube and I'm live streaming on YouTube right now. So any of the stories that you want to see, they are going to be, or any of the stories that I'm reading, you can see that over on the YouTube side. So yeah, thank you. Okay. So back to the story though. We'll play the spooky music. Okay. So I got my ass whooped by a ghost. So to preference, I was training kind of hard into powerlifting at the time. My wife worked nights, so I was home with my kids. I had laid them down to go to bed, and I heard someone knock on my door. Not unusual since I know my tenants on my property, and the closest one was a very good friend of mine. Now I opened the door to no one. I kind of just assumed my friend had ding dong ditched me on his way home for laughs. So I went back to playing Skyrim. Then I was shoved hard enough for me to throw my controller into the wall and break it. I hit my head and bled pretty badly. I got up in a panic and looked around for whatever hit me, and it was dead silent in place. I called my mom and my aunt, who did some cleansing stuff, and advised me on what to do. I did it even though I don't believe in it because it's better than nothing. Then my power is cut. I opened my door after checking my breaker box inside my place. Someone outside flipped the main breaker. When I opened the door and turned the main breaker on outside, I felt very uneasy when I made it back inside my place. Supposedly, my mom thinks that whatever entered the door opened and knocked and cut my power to trick me into opening the door. A few days later, my wife jokes about jolting awake and seeing a 7-foot black muscular figure in our room over our youngest child, and decided to go back to sleep, assuming it was sleep paralysis. Okay. Now, okay, I will say a couple of things here. Um, I will definitely say that what's interesting about this story is the sleep paralysis part. Um, okay, let me just go back here and retrace my steps. I also, when I was reading the story, I thought about like the legend of like, don't answer the door when you hear 3 knocks, because it could be like a bad omen. Has anyone ever heard that before? Um, this is like one of my first TikToks I ever did on my TikTok channel. And I did a story on that, like the omen of like the 3 knocks and how you should never answer the door when people are knocking because you could let something in that's bad. Which I find very fascinating. I don't know, like I feel like I've always heard it as a lore and as a word of caution, but I've never like thought of it as like something that could happen as common. But it's interesting because from time to time I have read these stories of the knocking and bad things happening afterwards. So I don't know if anyone has any other take on that, let me know. But yeah. You can stay a while. Yes, I can stay a while. I don't mind. I like it when you guys talk to me. It's totally fine. For those of you joining my TikTok live stream, just know that I am live over on YouTube and I am reading Reddit stories. And if you want to read or you want to see what I'm reading, feel free to join me on the YouTube side. It's a little bit clear. I think it's clearer, and I'm using my nicer mic. So just so you guys know, either way, no problem. You're just missing out on all the fun. All right, so let's get on with the another story. I'm about to get water soon because I'm like drinking so much water, which, you should stay hydrated, Okay, so this one is very short, as you can see. It is from Status Fish 2878, and the title is Ghost? Question mark. So I just moved to a house and I was so happy, but my kids are seeing things, and my mom has always heard and seen things. My son woke me up today. He just turned 6 years old and told me someone kept asking him to come here. My mom yesterday morning heard kids playing in the living room, and when she realized my kids were still sleeping, she got scared and woke me up. So, how can I bless the house or what would I do in this situation? I need help. This was my worst fear of moving to a house, and this is happening. At first, I didn't care, but now it is talking to my son, and that scares me. So, okay, house cleansing advice. Oh, thank you, Victor. So house cleansing stuff. I think one of the things that I was told about house cleanses is you definitely want to smudge, but in some situations, smudging isn't always going to help relieve spirits. In some cases, it is offerings to spirits. And I know, like, the internet and a lot of people will tell you that smudging, because of the plant nearly being extinct and all this stuff, be very careful when you use smudging. It should be from an ethical source, and some cases people are now saying that it should only be used by people with ancestral ties to smudging. There are other ways to smudge or cleanse your space. Salt is a great one. I remember my mentor, she told me that one of the things that I could do is always put salt by the entrance. Oops, this was loud. Let me make sure that I'm gonna get the pings. But for smudging, okay, so you want to spray salt. You can always put salt by the entrance of your house and windows, and you can always set back, like, also do boundaries, like tell spirits to leave, that they're not welcome. Something as simple as that too is always. People always think that, like, you have to do a whole thing. No, sometimes asking politely is also another one. But in some cases where spirits are very attached to the property, salt is a good one. But you want to do it on the outside of your property and be very cautious with it, because if a spirit is very temperamental, then yeah. Yes, getting blessed too is another one. Is a great example. Not always perfect, exactly. It's not always perfect, but it's also a good one. Having somebody come and bless your house is another good one. Whether you are like a member from a church group or you can find somebody. So those are my recommendations. I've also had people put like special, like like a crucifix, or like not a cross in the entrance of a house. That's also another thing. There's all kinds of different things depending on your spiritual practice that you could do. um, and yeah, just my little take on that. Oh, thank you, Chris. Yeah, I think the YouTube side is a little bit better for like the live streaming. Not gonna lie, I think it's a little bit, yeah. So for those of you that are on my TikTok, I am live streaming on YouTube. So if you want to see what I'm looking at, feel free to head over there. If not, no worries. But you're missing out on the fun. Anyway, so let me go to the other story. The th The Thing. So this one is from Pickle Feathers, and it's called The Thing, and then has a little tag that says, "Needs to be debunked." Hi, everybody. Okay. So it says, "I don't write on here much, but I need to tell y'all this. This happened just now. I'm in my room and I hear my mom throwing rocks and yelling at something. I think it's the stray cats that hang around, so I thought nothing of it. I hear my brother talking to my mom a few minutes later, and I see what's going on. My brother says that there is someone or something on the roof. Now, I think nothing of it, but the word someone didn't sit right with me. I went out to the kitchen, and my brother shows me a drawing. It's a drawing of a figure with horns, eyes, and what really got to me was the teeth. It was peering inside his window. Next, he told me that it whispers to him. You may be wondering, why isn't it happening to me? Well, I'm stronger spiritually, and I've experienced things since I was little and grown into that department. Can someone give me an explanation on what this is? I might upload a photo later. Oof. Now that is scary. That sounds like Krampus. Why did that sound like Krampus? That sounds like right. Does this not sound like Krampus? um, not trying to be mean. It just made me think of Krampus. Hey, you know what? Aren't we like 6 months away from Christmas anyway? You know, uh, but that is very interesting. So then someone asks, how old is everyone? And then Pickle Feather says, I'm 15, my dad's 43, my mom is 40, and my little brother is 13. Someone says it's an alien. I mean, that's a hot take. Am I right? That's a hot take. I think that's a hot take. um, Now, I don't know. I think here's the thing. I feel like whenever I think of like things in the roof of a house or creaking or anything like that, I always want to ask the question, how windy is it? Do you guys have raccoons? Is there, I want to think of it logically. I feel like that's always a good call, right? Um, and also, I mean, no offense to them, but they're like, I'm 15 and I grow into the spiritual realm. I mean, I'm sure they're probably intuitive. I feel like there is such thing as indigo children. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that, indigo children. So it's basically like a terminology used for children that are very like intuitive. But I still think that it's tough to say, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think because I know raccoons can lurk up there. I know that like so I live here in California and I have like lizards and stuff. Like lizards that like roam up there. I've seen lizards. Like that's been a culture shock since I've moved to like the LA County area coming from like Denver. So I feel like there's just so many possibilities. But yeah, you're right, Victor. It may not always be out of the realm of possibility. Um, yeah, thank you. And thank you, Victor, for joining my YouTube side. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just I don't know. Okay. So I think, yeah, I'm gonna upvote that. And there's this one. But before I get into this one, I need to get some water. So hang tight, you guys. Are you familiar with the Blair Witch, The Conjuring, Annabelle, the last two based on true stories and or inspired by true stories? Yes, Chris, I am. But hang that thought. I'm gonna get some water. I'll be right back, you guys. Oops. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi. Okay, I'm back. I got water. So you guys are so nice. Thank you, Chris and Victor. And just for context, I'm live on YouTube. So if you guys want to like read or see what I'm reading, feel free to check my live stream out on YouTube. If not, no worries. But you are missing out on the fun. Okay, so you asked a question, Chris, on the Blair Witch, Conjuring, Annabelle. Yes. Okay, so the Blair Witch, I was not supposed to be in the movie theater for this, but I was. And I was very young. I went to go see the movie with my older sister, and she was babysitting me. I thank you. Okay, for context, I'm like such a Hello Kitty person. I have like Hello Kitty slippers. These are my Hello Kitty slippers, and I'm wearing that with this jacket because I got cold because we were blasting the air conditioner. Okay, so Blair Witch. Yeah, I saw the movie and I was so scared. And you know what's fascinating about the Blair Witch is that people actually thought that these people went missing and they went to that town to go look for these missing people. And then I remember like watching the MTV Movie Awards at the time. Do they even have MTV Movie Awards? But I remember watching the MTV Movie Awards and I remember that like they had to come out and apologize. They're like, "We're so sorry we tricked you guys. Um, this was all a movie." But yeah, Doll Island, that's a great suggestion if they made a movie on the Doll Island. Conjuring Annabelle. I think yeah, The Conjuring and Annabelle with like the Ed and Lorraine Warren stories. I've actually been thinking about doing a whole deep dive on Ed and Lorraine Warren because I feel like there's so much controversial things with them, and I'm sure some of you guys have already heard it if you like that spooky stuff, but, like, I think it's interesting. Okay. So, yes, hi, Beyond Byan Carrie Nold. Sorry if I missaid your username. Okay. Alright, so we're getting into this one. This one's called Something is Inside the House. This is by Medical Reach 589. Okay, so a couple years ago during COVID, my brother had my brother had to be brought to the hospital as he had almost had OD on drugs. This meant that I was completely utterly alone in the house. I was around 2 or maybe 3 It was around 2 or maybe 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and they had been gone for a couple of hours, most likely running tests on my brother's blood levels. I don't know the medical science. Anyway, I was upstairs in my bedroom when all of a sudden I got this eerie feeling, yet I couldn't place it. So I checked the house just out of I guess boredom. Anyway, the house turns out to be completely empty apart from me and my pets. So I go upstairs and laugh it off as a moment of madness. Only seconds after that, I heard the loudest, and yet I can only describe it as blood-curdling scream anybody could ever hear. In fact, it sounded so impossibly loud that I can't imagine being humanly possible. The worst thing about this scream is that it was my mother's voice, screaming my name so naturally. I rushed downstairs, fearing the worst, only to find it in complete shock and terror that the house was completely empty. I was rightfully terrified, so I immediately ran out of the house and checked to see if any of the neighbors had heard this terrifying scream. Only as I asked, I got puzzled looks. This has always freaked me out ever since that it happened. I would just like to know what was impersonating my mother and why. And for those of you who are curious, my brother was a little ill, however, he survived, but unfortunately is still on drugs. That's a very tragic loaded story. um okay. Yeah, okay, so let's dive into this. Okay, so I've told the story a few times on my lives where something mimicked my sister's voice and she sounded like she was in a panic. And till this day, I feel like there's so many takes on what could be mimicking voices, right? When I've told a story, I've heard people mention that it could be a Wendigo or a Skinwalker. I don't know about that. Um, I think and I've also heard that there's spirits out there that they're like mimics. They're called mimics, and they just mimic voices and stuff. Um, I feel like there's so many possibilities with this. Uh, it's always hard to say, right? However, it is interesting that like for whatever reason, something mimicked his mom's voice. In like the same way that something mimicked my sister's voice, you know? Like it didn't mimic my mom, it didn't mimic my stepmom. Well, at the time in the house that I was in, I was living with my dad, my stepmom, my sisters, and my stepsister and stepbrother. But yeah, it's just interesting how that pans out. Um, One of the takes I've heard in the past has been that like they believe that whatever mimicked my sister's voice might have been like a guardian angel or something protecting her, enough to make me call her to prevent from something happening. I don't know. There's just so many interesting theories on why spirits mimic voices. But in this case, it's interesting because they heard something mimic their mother's voice that sounded so inhumane, you know? Like, that's interesting. I'm just, like, chowing down on this dang orange. Victor says, "Have had stuff mimic my family's voice through the years. I've gone and asked them if they called me, and they'll say, 'No, we didn't call you.'" See, that's just interesting, you know what I mean? So it's like, because even in, like, the house that happened, I don't know about you, Victor, but, like, when I had that happen, I never felt like that house was, like, not safe. You know what I mean? I never felt anything like that. Hi, everybody joining my live on TikTok. If you guys want to join my live on YouTube to see what I'm reading, feel free to join me over there. I'm also having my fancy mic over there, but if not, no worries. You're just missing out on the fun. um, all right, so I'm gonna upvote that and just keep going. It's interesting too because it's like this needs to be debunked. Or no, never mind. That's the other story. Okay. I like these little tags that I'm seeing. I normally don't see the tags on, well, I do, but probably to cause them more panic. Yeah, I mean, maybe like it could be also like spirits that like feed off fear and panic. That could be that too. You know what I mean? But then in that case, I don't think they're spirits. I think it's something else. I'm just eating on this orange. Don't mind me. Okay. So this is from Moonlight, and it's called "My Family Has Been Haunted by What We Think Are the Same Spirit or Spirits or Entities for Years." So this is what they said. "It comes and goes. Sometimes it's quiet for a long period of time. Months go by and nothing happens. And then, as soon as we think it could be gone for good, something happens again. It's back again, and whatever it is, it's definitely presenting itself more often. Whether it be moving chairs, knocking on doors, or slamming them closed, footsteps, voices, and even thinking we see something in our peripheral vision. It's noticeably back. And since we lived with these experiences for over 10 years, it still gives us this very uneasy feeling. My younger sister, who is 22 years old, was usually the target. She became severely depressed, anxious, and reserved. But now I'm scared it's me. My mental health has been pretty good over the last year with great improvement, but suddenly I feel like the life is being sucked out of me since these occurrences have started up again. We have had our houses over the years blessed 2 times. We sage the house every now and then, but whatever is lurking always seems to come back. They present in our dreams. Yeah, they present in our dreams and nightmares. It follows us when we leave the house. I just don't really know what to do with it, as it comes and goes as it pleases. So far, nothing violent has happened, and sometimes people in my family have seen apparitions that don't give off a bad energy. So I'm wondering if there are multiple spirits with us. We are a family with close ties to the spiritual realm, with our ancestors carrying the gift of feeling and seeing things, seeing these energies and entities. I'm just worried that whatever is with us right now is bad because it certainly doesn't feel good. Please feel free to discuss your theories below or ask me any questions. I've never spoken out about this before, so please be kind and thank you for reading. Okay, so here's my thing. um, there's a couple of theories I have with this. So the first is that if they have experienced energy come and go, I think there's a portal in their house. There might be like something like a vessel or a portal or something like being that like gateway to having things coming in and out. The other thing too that comes to mind is whenever, like, it depends where people live, but if you live in an area that's very woodsy or sentimental of some sort, you might have like earth entities around you too. And so like if you're not upkeeping the property, this also goes for spirits. If you're not upkeeping the property, or if you have antiques and you're not taking care of it and you're allowing it to collect dust, then they'll come and show you like, hey, why are you not taking care of my stuff? Or hey, like you're not taking care of the house, you know? So whenever you like disrespect a place, it could reoccur spirits. That, or again, it could also be a portal. So that might be another theory that I have. Because if they're telling, because you notice how they said that at the very end, they're feeling that it's like a bad feeling. It's not like how it was before. That might be something. They say present, but they don't say how or when. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, poltergeist. I know. I feel like I've eaten. I always eat oranges on these lives. Why do I keep eating oranges? Every time I've done a live, my mom will have bought like a bunch of oranges, so I try to like eat them before they go bad. I'm like the worst fruit person, you guys. I don't know if anyone here can resonate, but we'll buy a bunch of fruit and then we won't eat it nearly as fast, and then it goes bad. And I'm like, dang it, I need to be better. I need to get healthier. We need to start eating fruit and veggies. You know what I mean? And I just we need to have something, you know what I mean? We gotta eat well. And if that's now at midnight, which I shouldn't even be eating at midnight as I just go on this whole thing about eating healthy. So for those of you that are joining my live, I am live also on YouTube. Feel free to check out my YouTube and the live stream over there. I do have the Reddit thread up, so you get to not only hear me tell the stories, but you get to also see what I'm reading. Eat watermelons. We don't Okay, you know what? We haven't bought watermelons, so maybe it's time. I don't know. All right, so I'm gonna upvote this and go over to the next story. A lot of these are house hauntings tonight. Has anyone noticed that? If it's oranges, I gotta have some yes. Well, okay. I would have put tajin on tahin, right? Tahin. I say it really wrong. I'm like tajin. But you know what? I have a bunch of that, and I don't eat at night because it's a lot of salt, so I don't wanna, like, feel weird, you know what I mean? I also just ate a bunch of food. They are. Okay, so did anyone watch Rugrats growing up? Did anyone watch Rugrats? Wasn't there, like, an episode, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there an episode on Rugrats with, like, the seed at like, the, watermelon seed growing inside of somebody? Like, little yeah. I don't know. Okay, right? Am I making this up? Oh, okay, I need to get the low sodium. That's what I need to do. It's time. Um, am I imagining things? I don't know. But anyway. Bear with me, you guys. Oh, was it Chucky? Okay. Okay, Chucky, right? Chucky had the seed, right? It grew. The seed grew. I'm not making this up. I forgot about this. I'm glad because I'm like, I'm not making this up, right? Like, and then I didn't want to eat watermelons for a very long time. So, yeah. And then Victor says, I've heard of that, but I heard a story of a dude who had a plant grow. Yes, I heard about. Okay, wasn't this also like breaking news in the 90s? Like that, like some guy had like something grow in his lung because he like accidentally coughed when he like was eating, he choked on like the seed and then like went in his lungs or something and like a plant grew. I can't be making this up. How do I remember these random things, but I can't remember like important dates? Anyway, it's too funny. Okay. So this is from Jerry Candace, and it's called Our New Family House. So we recently moved into our new family house in a minor town in England located next to a church and not so far from a disused old army barracks. Okay, I don't know what that is. I might have said that wrong. I'm sorry. From the first night we heard odd noises. Regardless, we just looked at each other, smirking, the ghost. Then soon, the motion sensor lights would come on in the kitchen almost every other night. We didn't had an issue with those lights for the first 2 weeks of us living here, but now we know. Now we just look at each other without words every time it happens. Try to recalibrate it to no avail. With a toddler asleep upstairs, you learn to recognize the creaks of his room's floor. At 11 o'clock at night, we can hear it, but he is in his bed, fast asleep. This week, I swear I've seen someone standing in our bedroom in the middle of the night. And it has happened before that I woke up with the feeling that there is someone in the house, so I had to go on a frenzy checking every room and cupboards. But this morning, the creaking floorboards would wake me up, and facing the door in the bed, I had even registered the fact my partner is getting ready for work as she walked from the bathroom to the downstairs across our bedroom door. Automatically reached out with my arms to grab our toddler who comes to bed regularly just to grab partner in bed. With my heart pumping, I quickly got out from the bed trying to think of something that I could use against whoever is in my house because there is someone in the house and I can hear the noises coming from downstairs. Empty handed with shaking legs, I walk the stairs to find the house is empty and all doors are locked. I hesitated all day to mention this to my partner, just half wittingly said it to her after dinner, even trying to reinforce myself that I may have heard noises in my dream, just to have her look at me with a terror on her face. Every morning over the last week, when she is downstairs alone getting ready for work, she can hear the doors and wardrobe doors opening and closing like us would be coming down to join her. Oh, it's as if someone was coming down to join her. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Um, oh, okay, yes, Victor, they removed the foreign plant. I know we're having like a couple of different conversations. Hi, Secret. Okay, no offense to English people or British people, but whenever they write, because I've worked with people, and when they write things, I'm like, wait, what? It's always interesting, like seeing the expressions and how they write and like stuff that they say. I'm like, what? Like this last bit, I'm like coming down. Okay, so this is really interesting. I think that they pointed out the church and the army barracks for a reason. You know, and here's the thing. I always find this kind of interesting, right? Because there's a lot of older houses and places in Europe. And so I'm always curious about like their not that it would be different, but like I'm always curious like how many like haunted stories they have for every building. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like how there's just so many old buildings everywhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if like, you know, everyone had like a ghost story in every other building. I don't know. Hi. For, hello. Yeah. Okay. I had a friend. I had a coworker from Australia, and that was fun. I loved. We had so many conversations, and I learned. I had a culture shock when I was like asking them so many. I felt so silly, but I asked him questions about like what was a culture shock, which I know is like is a very typical American thing of me to say, but it was around Thanksgiving, and I said, yeah, you know, like you know, this is probably what we're gonna eat for like the week of Thanksgiving or whatever. And then he said to me, yeah, like turkey out here is like a kind of like a luxury, not like a luxury. It's like a seasonal food. Like you don't eat it whenever. It's like something that gets sent to us from the States or something like that. I'm like, whoa, okay. Batman asks your favorite true crime case. Oh gosh, I don't think I have like a I don't like to use the word favorite with tragedy. But if there was a case that has fascinated me, it would be the one of Taylor Granger. I think that's how you say his name. So let me just double check. I'm not mistaking. Yes, Granger Taylor. That story freaks me out. Not really freaks me out, but it's like a story that I did get really fascinated because basically, if you don't know the story of Taylor Granger, is that he lived, I think, in near Vancouver. Um, but basically, this guy who was like incredibly smart, he basically like was able to repair like old trains and put together things. He's a really great engineer. And one day he told his family that he was going to go on like a 48-month or something like that, like but for I think like 2-year voyage with UFOs, like aliens, like that he had been talking to aliens and that he was going to go on this like space travel with them. And like he handed the will to his parents, but he crossed out the word death and said that he would come that um he would be back. And the thing is that they never really found anything like his remains or whereabouts or anything. Now, years, and I mean like years down the road, they found a vehicle part that may have been from his car. And so they basically like narrowed it down that he may have had blasted too much TNT in his truck. And so that might have caused his death and that he might have purposely unalived himself. But the problem with that is that like his friends and family don't think that that sounds like him. Um, there was that theory, and then there's theories that he might have been using drugs. So there's also this, like, it's just like it's a whole thing, though. It's a whole thing. Um, yeah, it's a very tragic story, of course. Yeah, I think you've heard. Yeah. Um, the Victor says the one that still has my attention is the Eliza Lamb. Yeah, I think that was another one too. The Eliza Lamb case is also another like one that just it's very. And when I say fascinating, it's only because there's just so many conclusions on what happened, and there's so many things that like stump me. And yes, I think the Eliza Lamb one is one that does stump me too. And I remember like so that was one of the first stories one of the very first stories I did on my TikTok, and I did it in multiple parts. And when I did that story, I had this was like the first time making content and like diving into it online, and so I got a lot of hate for that video. But it had multiple parts because back then, when you had like the time, you can only do a video in a minute. So there was a lot of nuances in that video, and people were like, you're not talking about mental health. I'm like, well, that's in the second video. The second video talks about her mental health. So yeah, that was like one of the very first videos I started dabbling into like unsolved, like true crime-esque paranormal stuff. Um, and yeah, that was an interesting case. There's a create content creator that lives across the street from the Cecil Hotel. Um, and I met them. Well, I met them before VidCon. I had spoke to them a few times, but they're very nice. I think that I don't know how to say their last name. Pete Monserrat. I don't know how to say his last name. But yeah, he didn't know about the story of the Cecil Hotel. I mean, in general, the Cecil in general, it's just that in itself is interesting too because a lot of tragedy has happened there. It's not in like the best part of town or hasn't been historically in the best part of town. Uh, Things continue to happen there. I'm not saying it's supernatural. I'm just saying there's a lot of tragedy that happens there. Um, so yeah, I think hopefully that answers your question. John Bonet, Ramsey. Yes. So I lived in Colorado, and I remember when I was a kid in the 90s, I remember the John Bonet Ramsey thing being plastered all over tabloids in the grocery store. I'd always see her face right by the checkout lanes. And as I got older, I came to understand her story a little bit better. And then when I lived to Colorado, I learned about that too. I haven't watched the Netflix documentary. I probably should though. But yeah, I've heard about the John Bonet Ramsey for such a long time. I think in recent times they were trying to do like a DNA thing with her. So yeah. uh but you know what? I've taken back a little bit on like true crime stuff only because it is a lot of tragic things with it. I mean, paranormal, I think I can deal with it a little bit better, but true crime is very, very tragic. I did a story on this woman who had been abducted as a kid, and her abductor raised her as her own. And so she never knew that she was abducted. And then fast forward, her kids, they did the 23andMe, and through 23andMe, they found their biological grandfather who had been looking for his missing daughter. Turns out she had lived not far from him her whole life. And I made a story on that, and I had somebody in my comment section telling me that I was wrong about how I reported the story. And then her family came in, the victim's family came into my comment section and were like calling this person out because like I was telling the truth. I wasn't misinforming anything. And it put in perspective on how like true crime. I mean, I've had two incidents in my life where like realizing how the gravity of true crime and how it affects victims and victims' friends and family. But this was the most recent one that was like, dang, like the internet. whether we think so or not, these victims are like family and friends are watching. They know what people are saying. Um, it does weigh on you. Yeah, it does. And the first time I realized the gravity of true crime and the sensationalism of it was when I was 18 or 19, and I had just graduated high school. I was doing my first semester of college, and I didn't know what I wanted to go to school for. And I was reading like serial killer books because I thought I was gonna be into like criminology and stuff. This is when there was like A&E and they had like the most evil countdown show, and I was watching Unsolved Mysteries and all this stuff. And anyway, I was reading a book on Ted Bundy, and when so I was staying with my mom's friend from church. Now, my mom's friend from church, so for context, my mom and her friend from church are Mormon. I'm not Mormon, but they're Mormon. And her mom's friend offered a place for me to stay my first semester of college, so I didn't have to pay for like, you know, any dorms or apartments or anything like that. So I did. I took the offer. Well, one day I left the Ted Bundy book on the kitchen counter, not thinking anything of it. And I get home and the lady's like, "Did you bring this book here?" And I was like, yeah, I got it from the library." And she's like, "Ted Bundy killed my friend." And I was like, "Fuck." I felt like shit immediately. I was like, "Shit." I grabbed the book and I took it out of sight. And she's like, you know his story, right? Like, you know what he did." And I was like, yeah, yeah, I finished up I'm about to finish the book. It's awful what he did." And so she told me that the day that her friend was abducted was the day that they were at church together, and I think they had gotten done with choir. They were living in Utah, and the so for context, when Ted Bundy was doing all this awful things, uh, there was curfews in spaces that he was being reported. Like people, when they saw him, they would put a curfew, and so for women, there was curfew. Well, I think it was for anybody really, just curfew, and then it was the buddy system. So for my friend, or for my mom's friend, they were told that after church they would go to one of the other's house, and the parent would pick them up. They were not allowed to walk home alone. And keep in mind that they lived like a house or two away from each other. It wasn't even that far. Well, on this day, the lady that I the well, yeah, I technically did finish the book. Yeah, I was about to finish it. I was like on the last couple, but I had gone through the bulk of it, so I knew, and that's why I put it away. Um, so anyway, on this day after church, they were walking home together, and her, we'll call the lady that I was staying with Lindsay. We'll call her that so everyone understands. Lindsay was like, okay, walking with her friend, and her friend says to Lindsay, "Well, you know what? You don't have to walk me home today. We don't have to do this buddy system thing." And Lindsay's like, "Are you sure? Like, it's not safe." And her friend was like, "Yeah, you're only like a house or two away. Nothing could happen." And she's like, "I don't know about this. Are you sure?" And her friend insisted. So then they go their separate ways. And in an instant, her friend was abducted. Just like that. Only a house away. Just like that. So anyway, that story till this day has always played a major imprint on like being very careful with the sensationalism of true crime, serial killers. Like, if my best friend or one of my really good friends was killed by somebody and they were making movies about them and it was being sensationalized, I wouldn't be feeling very good about it. You know what I mean? Um, and the fact that, like, there it was, this killer in her kitchen counter, you know what I mean? It's just I can't imagine. And also, I can't imagine for this woman who survived and wasn't abducted, how she might feel like a survivor's guilt or a guilt of, like, "I should have walked her home that day." So I can't imagine the people that are tied to these things, how they feel. And that's something that I'm always like, I mean, I cover true crime on another channel called Famous Crime Scene, and I've done videos for like BuzzFeed Unsolved. I've done it on my channel, but it's not necessarily my favorite topic to talk about. It is an interesting topic, but it's not something that, like, I get excited talking about, you know what I mean? Knowing what I know and what I've experienced. Sorry to get into a tangent with it, but I hope that makes sense. I'll eat an orange now. Wait, what's the movie Mystic River? You have to walk a very fine line with true crime. You really do. It's a lot. Okay, let me, like, upvote this because we read this one already and then move on to the next story. But it's a very fine line, and, I'm not gonna say exactly who or what, but, like, there are definitely podcasts of people, like, when they talk about true crime or when they talk about these things, they, like, make jokes of it. Um, yeah, so here we are. You gotta get an orange, you gotta get an yeah, it's time to get an orange. Um, any tips on how to write horror and paranormal? Oh gosh, and it's that's a good question. I've never considered myself a writer. So here's a fun story about me. I actually when I was a kid, I wanted to be an animator. I wanted to be a comic book, artist or an animator, and I never considered myself a writer, which is bonkers because like comic books and all that, you are coming up with stories and all of that. I think it came very naturally to me as a kid, but as I got older, I started to really rely heavily on like experiences. And also, like, hearing other people's stories and, like, what they talk about and what I experience. I don't know, I think it's hard. I think it's like I when I would get into the mode of writing stories, I would put myself like an actor. Yes, research, but also, like, I think of it as it depends on what you're writing too, right? Um I like to think of myself as an actor, and I'm, like, acting it out with words, if that makes sense, and that really helps me kinda ideate better, like, the introduction, the plot, and the ending, and it's so funny, I actually got to sit down on a Zoom chat during the pandemic with, R.L. Stine, Goosebumps, um, and that was amazing. I was screaming on the inside, and someone asked him a question on, like, the same similar question, and he said it's just, like, he doesn't even think. He says, like, he just, like, sits down and just writes things, and I think after a while, like, you can train your brain for that, but I think for other people that, like, maybe, like, they're not there yet, I like to think of myself as an actor, like, how would you act the scene out? How would you make it feel intense? You know what I mean? I think that's also another way to, like, look at it. Um, yeah, goosebumps. The other thing too is, like, when I was younger, I was really into, like, comic book and all that stuff. I'd watch, like, movies, and I would think of it as, like I would think about, like, "Well, why is this character feeling this way?" And, like, really do a deep dive of, like even if the story isn't in the film, like, think of this character and how they got to this point and why they're acting how they're acting, and that really gets you into the mind of the character. I think it's really about the mind of the character because I love character development and, like, a really good character backstory. So I hope that helps. I know it's not the best, but, like, I think because it's, like, for me, it just kinda would come to me, but in light of that too, you gotta act it out. Victor says, YouTube is your friend is your friend. If you wanna be a writer, you can watch how-to tips." Yeah, YouTube is also really good. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, no, I for sure. There's a book that, for, like, writing exercises, it's called, like, A Thousand Things to Write About, and it's like little fun exercises on, like, random things to write about, like, improv-ish, to kinda get your mind jogging. Because I think that's also something too, like, sometimes you just feel like you're getting a block, so sometimes it's, like, taking yourself out of it, but again, think of it as, like, a character. Secret. I've started by creating a Bible of characters and they're ooh, that's amazing. I love that. That's a good yeah, it's a good one. Okay. So I think I'm gonna end the live. I've been on live over an hour and I've been rambling a lot for a little over an hour. But this was fun. If you haven't checked out my YouTube, you guys, please do. I really love the setup, the live setup on my YouTube side because you can see what I'm reading, but also like when I do watch parties and everything, I'm gonna try to do it more so on YouTube. I'm not gonna do it on TikTok just because it's like I've had problems with it on here and I feel like it's too much. So anyway, if you guys want to check out my YouTube, feel free. I'm trying to be more consistent. I just did a video on a haunted Furby story, a user submitted haunted Furby story. It is on my YouTube. It is anonymous though, so I didn't like give them a shout out or anything like that. But if you guys for whatever reason want me to do a story or anything like that, you can always write to me. I just filmed another YouTube video on oops I just posted, or sorry, not posted it yet, but I just filmed a YouTube video on like spirits in the ocean. Is that a possibility? Why or why not? So again, check out my YouTube. I'll be posting it there. um Trying to get a little bit more consistent on my YouTube side because I feel like I can talk longer on there. And for those people that want to who want to for whatever reason listen to me talk for that long, it's always nice if you guys do. Yeah, but check it out there. If not, no worries. Um, yeah, this was fun. I'll probably try to do another live next week. We'll see. Is anyone doing anything fun for the 4th of July? I kind of feel like it's like with everything going on in the world, it doesn't feel as like celebrate. You know what I mean? I don't know. I started creating the Bible. Yes, I believe once I'm done with the live stream, it'll get posted on my YouTube. So yeah, you'll be able to see the words that I botch up and everything. um, but yeah. So hopefully everyone has a good weekend. If you don't do anything on the 4th, hey, I'm not either. So I haven't really celebrated the 4th of July and it's not, I don't know. I know some people get into it. I really it really hasn't. And again with everything going on right now, it's like really I watch videos on how to podcast because I want to podcast, but I want to do it on my style. I'm working, so the funnest thing I'll be doing is hiding from customers. That sounds like a good bet. Just hide from them. But yeah, there's like a YouTube podcast thing. Does anyone listen? Actually, it's an interesting question because I love podcasts. Does anyone listen to podcasts on YouTube? I felt like I've heard that that's like a big thing now. I listen to podcasts on like Apple Podcast. But I'm very curious where people are listening to their podcast because I didn't know that YouTube had a thing for podcasts, and now I'm hearing people like listen to podcasts on there, which is interesting. I don't know. I'm like, where did this happen? Yes. Okay. Cool. That's cool. Hi, Miranda. Mostly use YouTube and okay. So YouTube and Spotify are it for. Apparently, I'm missing out, you guys. Maybe I gotta switch over to like YouTube or Spotify. Well, okay, I do listen to Spotify, but I guess I could just like automatically do podcasts on Apple Podcast. But maybe I should do because I'm sure people on YouTube podcasts have like a video and stuff on it. So maybe. I listen to a podcast that broadcasts on Twitch. I've seen that. I've seen people use like they do their live podcasting on Twitch. That's really cool. I've seen some of those setups. Yeah, it's interesting how like podcasts are like being posted on multiple platforms. So I have Alexa or like the Echo, sorry, Echo. The Alexa. Wow. I need to get offline. I have the Echo Dot, and I've asked it to play podcasts, and I didn't even know that like Amazon has their own podcast. I mean, I guess it's a given. I just didn't think of it. Yeah, same. I do like Apple for podcasts. I didn't know that there was like, I guess it's a given. I mean, well, okay, there is one podcast that I listen to on Spotify because they now do like a subscription thing. Which like I'm kind of annoyed. Like I get it. I mean, as somebody that makes content, I get it. But I hate it when like you listen to a podcast and they're like, sorry, I'm only available for either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So then you have to like get one or the other. And you're like, dang it, like now I can't listen to I can't listen to you because or you have to like pay extra for like the latest podcast episode, which I don't mind. If I really like it, I'll give it a try. Like I listened to Radio Rental, one of my favorite podcasts, and I did subscribe to them for a little bit. But yeah, like some of these podcasts are getting like these exclusive deals only for like Apple or Amazon. Well, I guess Amazon, now that I'm saying it, and Spotify, and you're like, dang, okay. The only thing I don't like is that Twitch doesn't have multi-streaming. Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. Twitch is a very interesting platform. It's an interest in general, like it's very interesting. It's like a fun platform, but it's very yeah, it doesn't have a lot of flexibility. Okay, I definitely need to get offline. I'm like that friend on the phone that's like, okay, I gotta let you go, and they keep talking. I gotta go. I gotta go. All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and reading spooky stories. I'll talk to you guys next time, and I hope you guys have a good weekend. And if I can find my mouse to end the broadcast, I'll do that. All right. Bye, guys.